The brutal life of a plague doctor in medieval Europe. You wear the mask, not to save them, but to survive yourself. The town calls you doctor. The plague calls you dinner. The leather straps bite into your skin as you pull them tight, sealing your breath in a private weather of heat and fear. The beak hangs heavy in front of your lips stuffed with lavender, mint, vinegar-soaked cloth, sometimes cloves or camphor, and on rare contracts, a few shards of crushed gems to convince the rich that hope has a scent. They think the herbs protect you. You know the truth. They only perfume the air between you and the dead. Bells don't count hours anymore. They count bodies. They ring from towers with tired ropes and tired hands, and the sound bleeds down alleys where laughter evaporated weeks ago. Doors are marked with chalk crosses. Windows are shuttered with boards that were once a bed, a table, a child's toy. Smoke curls from pans left on thresholds, herbs smoldering in shallow piles, the alchemy of panic. You step through it like fog. Mothers watch from cracks in doors, pressing children to their skirts as if cloth could barricade breath. Fathers stare with a mixture of need and resentment. They want a miracle. They hired a mask. You didn't come for glory. You came because the university physicians fled to villas, because letters of recommendation turned to ash in plague weather, because a town council offered double wages if you survived the year. The contract reads like confidence and feels like mockery. Housing near the market, a purse of coins at the quarter, extra pay upon survival. Upon survival does all the talking. You sign anyway, you know why. Coin you may not live to spend is still coin, and each morning arrives empty of alternatives. The costume is a courtroom drama in leather. The hat wide-brimmed to announce authority. The robe heavy with wax to deny the touch of death. The gloves stiff and squeaking when you flex them. The boots that make your steps sound like someone else's. The beak ridiculous, theatrical, unforgettable, tilted just enough to distort your voice into something unplaceable. People obey voices that don't belong to anyone they know. The glass eyepieces fog with every breath, turning the world into a smeared painting, which helps because you don't always want to see what the world is showing you. You carry a stick not for balance, not really. It is your yard of mercy and your yard of cowardice. With it, you lift blankets, peel linen off fever, test the distance between your body and contagion. It taps on doors before your hand dares to knock. It opens mouths when you need to look at tongues turned the wrong color. It also reminds people to keep back. In normal times, a doctor's tools unlock secrets. In plague times, your best tool is air you do not share. Mourning is the color of old bone. You begin at the eastern gate and work inward, street by street, ledger tucked beneath your robe where the heat makes ink bleed. The first house smells of oranges and fears someone had money, someone still hopes in trade routes. A woman meets you at arm's length and then remembers arm's length is not enough. She points to a bed where a boy stares at a ceiling nail as if he could pull his soul out by it. You note the swelling at his neck, the bruised purples at the edges of breath, the dry tongue. You offer vinegar, you offer garlic wine, you offer the discipline of routine. Drink this, steam that, burn those clothes, open those shutters in the afternoon and close them before dusk. She nods at everything. People nod at anything when the alternative is the bell. You had teachers who mocked charms and censors and saints, and you laughed with them. Then you saw fathers pull carts loaded with the still and the almost still, and now you don't laugh at anyone's way of asking the universe to pay attention. You do your work with steady hands because authority, more than medicine, is what holds a street together. The treatments feel like theater lancing swellings with a careful cut, watching the dark fluid leave as if the sickness might follow it, binding with linen that was once a wedding veil. Sometimes there is relief, a small reprieve that tastes like another sunrise. Often there isn't. You sign anyway. Official letters carry a kind of gentleness you can't find elsewhere. They say somebody came, somebody looked, somebody tried. The second house has 4 beds and 1 voice. An old man sits with his feet in a pan of water turned gray by ash. He tells you the names of everyone who should have answered the door. You record them neatly. Names deserve neatness. He asks if he is next. You tell the truth that fits inside a mask, not if we can help it. He smiles the way people smile when the storm has already carried the roof into the river. You leave a small bag of powder angelica root and bravado and write an instruction. He can follow, place a stool by the window, sit where light can find your eyes, open the shutters, breathe when the air feels less tired. He nods like you gave him medicine. Maybe you did. A boy drags a bucket down the street, the wood complaining with each step. He keeps a scarf over his nose even though it does nothing. He looks at you as if your silhouette is a spell and says, "Doctor," the way people say door. You feel taller inside the robe and shorter inside your skin. At midday, you stand in a square where merchants once argued about olive prices. The stalls are empty except for the memory of shouting. A baker offers you a loaf wrapped in cloth as if generosity were sterile. You take it because refusing breaks something you cannot fix with any remedy you carry. You hear rumors the way all travelers do. Some say plague spreads by stars angling wrong at midnight. Some say it rides rats like ships. Some say it is a curse sent for sins that change name depending on who is speaking. Priests bless water until the bowls run dry. Alchemists simmer everything that can be simmered, then name it with words no one else understands. You keep walking. Whatever the cause, the effect is the same. Houses quieter than graves and faces burned with the same expression, which is not fear so much as disbelief having nowhere left to go. In the afternoon you meet another figure like yourself. Across the square floats your twin black robe, wide hat, bird mask, stick. He nods. You nod. No words. There is an order to silence. Each of you understands what the other's ledger looks like, how it gains weight without adding pages. You have heard stories of doctors dropping in the street, their bodies moved with the rest, names recorded in smaller letters than they used for others. The plague is not sentimental. It does not spare its own narrators. By evening, smoke climbs loose into a sky confused by how many prayers sound like bargains. You wash your hands with vinegar until your skin protests, and then you do it again. In a small room given to you by the council windows nailed open by another man in another mask months ago, you take off the beak, set it on the table, and watch herbs turn from green to brown to memory. Your face bears the roadmap of straps. You eat what you are given. You sleep the way soldiers sleep, ready to mistake any bell for your name. The next day, the ledger grows heavier and the street grows quieter, and your shoulders discover new definitions of burden. A crowd collects at the far corner of the market, someone shouting that your presence draws death like a nail draws lightning. You do not argue. You let the stick be logic. It is amazing how quickly a circle of space opens when the man in the bird mask advances with the patience of a saint and the posture of a verdict. Later, someone ties a small charm to your door, a token made of thread and dried clover. You leave it where it is. The city is a fragile machine. You don't remove any gears that still spin. Inside one house, a girl insists on showing you her garden arranged on a windowsill. 3 pots of mint, a bowl of stones, a feather she is sure fell from an angel. You ask which stone is lucky. She points to the ugly one. Good choice, you tell her. Ugly things are stubborn. They refuse to leave. She laughs, then coughs, then laughs again. You teach her to place a cloth soaked in water near her mouth when the cough comes hard. Science will later call this nothing. Today it is something to do that is not waiting. If you're still with this story, it means you're drawn to these brutal truths of history. Take a second to like this video and subscribe to Life Brutal. It helps us keep digging up the lives behind the legends, and it tells the algorithm this mask is worth lifting. There are procedures you do not speak of loudly. Sometimes you cut a swelling and the bowl fills, and the patient's moan unfurls into a breathing that sounds less tight. Sometimes you bleed an arm because a book told you that bad humors love company and will leave if you open a door for them. Sometimes you light herbs because the air seems tired and needs something to chase. You do these things with the ritual of a locksmith working on a door that may be only painted on. Effort matters to those watching. Even if the key was never cut for this lock, people sleep better hearing it turn. You inventory the tools each night as if counting them could keep you anchored. Knife, scissors, forceps, needle, thread. Cloths folded to the size of a palm, a small jar of salve that smells like the forest imagining it lives in a town. Your ledger sits open on the table, names aligned, letters careful. At the margin you write the small details that make names human, like the color blue, insisted the cat was a person. Believed basil could sing. None of this is medicine. All of it is mercy. You cough once. It sounds like a floorboard settling. You cough again and it sounds like something choosing you. Heat moves behind your eyes. The robe clings where it used to drape. You count to 30 and the world does not steady. The beak's herbs smell less like comfort and more like a joke someone else is telling in a room you can't enter. You keep walking because stopping is a decision, and decisions are luxuries for other seasons. A boy you treated 3 days ago waves from a doorway, his cheeks with color again. For a moment you believe you did something that reached beyond theater. You let that belief sit in your chest like a coal that refuses to go dark. Night returns with its choir of bells. You lie in your small bed and listen for the strike that will announce you. When it does not come, you wonder if you have been forgotten or spared. Fever is a bad accountant. It tallies hope in strange columns. You dream of air that does not taste like cloth, of streets with the sound of argument, of a market where someone complains about the price of cheese and you feel the privilege of boredom. Morning again. You rise. The mask goes on. The straps do not hurt less just because they have hurt before. A baker's wife meets you on the steps of a church where the candles have burned so low they look like pleading. She presses a roll into your hand and apologizes for its size, the way people apologize for the shape of the moon. You tell her it is perfect. Perfection is any food that reaches a mouth. She says her husband coughs when the flour dust floats by. You advise him to step outside when the sacks are opened. Advice is a bridge, even when it only reaches the next breath. Your colleague, the other bird in the other street, does not nod today. There is only one figure moving. You do not ask where he went. You add no name to your ledger that belongs to someone who wore your clothes. You pass a cart where the sheet over one body stirs. The driver pauses, lifts the cloth, closes it again, keeps moving. You write nothing. Not everything needs ink to be true. The city's officials meet with you in a hall that used to host weddings. They speak from the far end of a very long table. They ask about numbers. The mask makes your voice sound like it's been traveling for days. You tell them what they already know. The numbers go up, then down, then up again. They ask if you need more herbs. You ask for more air. They laugh nervously, as if jokes could sweep floors. They offer extra coin in advance. You accept because dignity is often a story we tell when the purse is full. You make a new mixture for the beak that night, rosemary for memory, mint for the idea of clarity, lemon peel because you found some at a stall and the scent insists on sun. You place each sprig as if arranging company for a lonely hour. The mask rests on the table like a bird that dreamed of flying and woke to discover it was a room. You sleep sitting up, a habit borrowed from fear. On your final week in the contract, if weeks have meaning when days repeat until they blur, you feel lightheaded in a way that has nothing to do with hunger. You work slower, which means you see more. A woman braids her daughter's hair with a ribbon salvaged from a wedding chest. A man mends a pair of shoes for feet that have not moved in 2 days, because mending is the one thing he remembers how to do with certainty. You realize the plague has 2 faces, the obvious one you record and the quiet, one that teaches people to care for each other in ways that cost them everything. Centuries will pass and your mask will outlive you by so much that the mask will forget it ever belonged to anyone. It will become carnival in Venice, song in a theater, costume in a window display that makes children laugh and point. People will say, "Plague Doctor," and see only the silhouette. They will not smell smoke and vinegar or hear the ledger's pages turn like a soft machine or feel leather hold heat against skin until the world narrows to a tunnel and a task. They will not know how many times you wanted to place the stick on the ground and walk in a direction that had no bells. They will not know the names in the margin, like the color blue. Thought the cat was a person. Believed Basil could sing. If you ever take off the mask in front of a mirror and you try not to, you watch the straps mark your face with lines that look like someone else wrote on you. You splash water that remembers being river before it was bucket. You practice the voice without the beak and it sounds like an amateur impersonating your own life. Then you put the mask back on because it is time and because time does not ask for permission here. So when they sell the mask as a souvenir, when they paint it with gold, when they pair it with velvet and laughter, remember, it was never a costume. It was a coffin you could walk in, a uniform sewn from fear and duty, an agreement with a city that knew your name only long enough to spell it on a line and then close the book. You were paid to count the dying until you learned how to be counted. The legend survived because leather survives. The men inside it rarely did. If you want more stories like this, more brutal lives pulled out of the shadows and held up to the light just long enough to see the human shape inside, subscribe now to Life Brutal and ring the bell. Drop a comment telling us which life we should unmask next. The streets are full of ghosts who still want to be heard.